joining me, and we are live on
Right.
YouTube and Twitter with our conversations with entrepreneurs and about becoming free, about having um, diversified income sources, about getting escaping the rat race, about talking with the upcoming entrepreneurs around us, and getting to know what they are up to, and deriving inspiration and trying to implement what we learn on these podcasts, what we learn from other people's story in our own life, right? So thank you so much, Eric, for joining us.
Thanks for
Uh,
having me. It's great.
yes. And just, probably our audience does not know much about you except, the description that we've put about you being a website graphic designer and author. But give us like an introduction about who is Eric Morse and what's he about?
Wow. Yeah, well, it's a big question. I think I could probably start by just giving a background of where I came from. So, born and raised in Indiana, and uh, mistakenly after college moved to California, and then um, after a few years doing some time in California, I finally figured out that Texas is actually the place to be, and so moved to Texas. Um, it's just wonderful there. I loved Indiana, and I loved California too, but loved Indiana, and it was just too cold, and couldn't handle it, and so I had to move. And I was under the impression that California was warm, but they don't tell you that when you move down there. Their summers, they have this thing called a June gloom, and it's just completely cloud covered uh, along the coast all throughout June and sometimes May and July. And anyway, so I had to get out of there. It felt like Indiana summers. So then Texas
Wow, I
is the place
actually
to
did
be.
not know that. I actually did
Yeah,
not know that. I've been sold on the, you know, come enjoy the sun, enjoy the good life in California.
yeah. It's
I didn't
it's a lie. No, I mean it is beautiful, and I think for the most part the is nice. It's a temperate, maybe between the 50s and 70s most of the time. I am strange because I actually like it warm, like very warm, 90s even in the hundreds. So um,
Yeah, me too. Me too. Even I love it warm, but that's why I'm in Toronto, Canada, right?
right, exactly, yeah, perfect place for you there. uh, no, it definitely isn't that. In California, there's like 100 different climates there. So I was on the coast, which was problematic for me. I would actually travel 2 hours to get inland to the desert and and just run because I love a good hot warm run. And so I would travel 2 hours, get into the desert, run, soak up the desert heat, and then go back to the cold gray of San Diego. But anyway, so yeah, that's how I got to Texas. Um, yeah, and I would say as far as who I am, so I'm a kind of a creative omnivore, you could say. I'm definitely interested in everything. You mentioned web development and design, graphic design, but I'm also into like strategy, design, change management, communications, marketing. My degrees in marketing, um, business strategy, all that kind of good stuff, and then also publishing. So books are my life basically between my family and books. I think that's a good way to describe it, and hence the background, the backdrop. Um, and I would say between those two things, you got my personality there.
That sounds very interesting. And what
Yeah.
you said, you're into marketing, you're into change management as well, right?
Yeah.
And what was the life event that inspired you to start your entrepreneurial journey so far?
So well, it's tough to say. I think it's kind of gone back to the beginning. I mean, I've always been uh, so specifically with books. I've always been um, interested in ideas and constantly working on ideas. And I've never really been a big reader. I wasn't a big reader in school, but always had big ideas and um, always loved sharing ideas. And one day my mom said to me, uh, Eric, you should write a book. And and so I was like, okay, that sounds great. It was just at the time when self-publishing was really coming into its own, um, and so I did put together a book and basically compiled all of my ideas on everything and vomited it out into this book and put together um, a book and then I published it, self-published, and it's really terrible. It's a terrible book. I would never recommend anyone read it. But just the process alone was really eye-opening and really showed me what was possible. And from there, it's just been so I've got 10 books now, working on 11, 12, and 13 all at the same time. Um, but yeah, just really amazing experience. I recommend anyone who has an inclination to write a book to definitely do it. Figure out what it takes and make it happen. The process is very rewarding, and even if you don't have many readers, I think you can't probably count on too many readers these days. But the process alone is excellent.
And like, can you tell me more about what you've written so far, starting with the first book and on?
Yeah. So I would describe the first book as kind of like a sociological overview of life in the early 20th century or 21st century. Um, yeah, and I think for the most part, I've stuck with the sociology, social sciences. So my biggest book has been History of Economics, and that's called Juggernaut. That was the biggest seller and probably the most sizable book. Um, so sociology, economics, history, psychology. I've got a psychology of storytelling, which is pretty fascinating and fun. Um, and a book on behavioral economics, which is kind of like a cross between psychology and economics. And
I do
and
know. I mean, I'm sure you can see my expression that I'm not that familiar with, but I see it here. I see the audio
behavioral.
thing, yeah. So I will be sharing the screen for some of our audience. But yeah, continue.
Okay, yeah, yeah, lots of good stuff. As you can tell, just from the content of the books, I got a lot of interest. So uh, creatively omnivorous.
Sounds interesting. And tell us more about what you're doing apart from writing, like in your job, in your
Mhm.
workplace. What got you into, like, you have a marketing degree and then change
Yeah.
management and graphic design, website design, business systems. That's a lot of things. Like, tell us a little bit about the journey of how you've, gone to this situation so far. What are the kind of businesses you are helping, and
Mhm.
more about that.
Yeah, so I did have a day job for a while, and um, it, it's it's someone's called it the golden handcuffs, right? So I think we're in an interesting time right now with the the status of most large corporations. It's almost like a very I mean, the golden handcuffs is a really good description of it because it is so appealing and people want to be a part of that primarily for security, job security and um, benefits are really important these days. It's almost um, financially prohibitive, cost prohibitive to do all that outside of the corporation. So definitely interested.
You have a alarm bell ringing somewhere. Is it the fire alarm?
It's a fire alarm.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think I think we've got a maybe a little smoke coming from the oven.
Ooh,
Um,
okay. You
I
go
don't.
take care of that. Don't worry about it.
No, I think we're okay. I think the wife
Yeah.
and everyone has it under control. Sorry about that. I'm a little deafened by that myself. I hope no one else had issues with that.
No, no, no worries. It was hardly a blip for us.
Okay, good deal. So yeah, where was I? The state of corporate America. Yeah, golden handcuffs, and
The golden handcuffs, I agree. The stable paycheck, the benefits, the medical, dental benefits, etc.
yeah,
Um, being in a community instead of being on your own, that kind of a thing.
hmm
Yeah, that kind of traps people for lifetimes. And yeah,
yeah. But what you also find with that is that there is a demand for these employees to one specialize and become like a cog in the machine, and they're an important cog, right? Because they're doing good work, but it is very limiting to what they can do, and people get pigeonholed. It's so easy. I mean, as you can tell from our conversation just today, I've got lots of interests, and I'm working on all kinds of different things, um, and I think that comes across even in the corporate setting. But really quickly, I was pigeonholed as this person does this certain thing. So I couldn't
so
really.
then what was the inspiration for you to make the jump, and how did you initially start on your own?
Yeah, so I would say it's kind of a combination of the desire to to jump and
Express yourself
yeah,
completely.
yeah, and just to do everything that I have interest in, and actually um, create to the extent that I know I can, and to kind of get pushed out from the corporate world. It just gets too strict, and they have too many requisites to follow. So it's kind of a carrot and a stick type of situation.
I agree. I agree. And then when
Mhm.
you first started, like, what was the journey like when you went out on your own and starting getting clients for your work?
Yeah. Well, so that I think is the main thing. It makes a lot of sense to start the hustle, side hustle, right?
Yeah.
While you've got a day job, and that'll be your security, and then um, get the clients before you make the jump is key, right? So you don't want to jump ship without having major network, created a sizable network. You don't want to do that. I mean, ideally, you have a few projects in the works, even on the side, um, and then you can just really ease into the the new life of entrepreneurship.
That's valuable advice because even we are helping a lot of people um, build their business on the side without disturbing their job. And once
Mhm.
the network is good enough, then they can definitely take the jump. Um,
Yeah.
and right now, what do you? I know you've published a lot of books, but what are the goals that you're currently working towards at the moment?
Yeah, so I would say, well, definitely more books. I would say growing my consulting business would be another goal for sure. Um, and just helping my family grow. So family's really first and foremost in my mind right now.
Yeah,
I've got three kids under 3 and under, and just helping them to become uh, capable, integral human beings is like the focus. So
yeah, it's a
um,
lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work.
yeah, for sure, and exciting. I mean, watching a human being grow is probably the most rewarding thing possible. So we've got a
Great
lot
work.
of babies, a lot of books and projects and companies and everything. But there's nothing like a a human baby to do that. Mm,
I just wanted to share something very interesting
yeah,
uh, with our audience, uh, which they would find of value. So, if somebody wants to reach out to Eric, the best place to get a hold of him is his LinkedIn account.
yeah,
As you can see, he has a very interesting profile. Also, there is his website, right? You can see
yeah.
the URL right here, or you can just go to his LinkedIn and the website is out here. And you can see some of his uh, really amazing work. And Eric did mention the Juggernaut book, which I happened to look up. And as you can see,
Yeah.
it is a very powerful product. So, this is something that definitely our audience should take a deeper dive in, right? You have the audiobook also.
Oh
So, for
yeah,
people who don't read or who are scared of reading letters, can always go for the audiobook. So,
that's
it's
right.
there's something for everyone,
Yeah, the
right?
audiobooks are the way to go these days.
Yeah, especially when we are multitasking so many things.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but anything that you would like our audience to know about you, and any lasting message for them.
Oh my goodness. Well, I would say just to touch on that. Thank you for sharing the books and everything. Um, I would say don't be scared. I've been told that so these are pretty dry subject matter, right? Economics, history, and all that stuff. But I've been told that it's really accessible and it's like a page turner type of a feel. So don't be horrified by the page count or the subject matter. It's really hope. I try to make it engaging and enjoyable. So
No, that's very powerful because I remember when I was studying history, civics, sociology, or um, economics, and the
mm,
textbooks were not exactly page turners.
all right, yeah,
But I'm so glad that you've made these topics, which are very important topics, by the way, that we should understand. We should have a good understanding, especially economics, social sciences. So make it interesting. That is really powerful. It's not that easy to simplify and make it an interesting story.
right. Yeah, you nailed it. Simplification and really story is so crucial. So anyone that can simplify and tell a good story, they're able to do a lot with that.
And last but not the least, if there are uh, potential authors in our audience,
Oh
what
yeah.
is the message that you would like to leave them with? Say somebody who's wanting to write a book. I know some of my friends have been wanting to write a book. They've started projects, but they have somewhere in the middle. I think it's happening, it's not happening. So, what would you like to tell people like that?
Yeah. Well, I would say prioritize it. If you have that inclination, I think there's a good reason for it, and there's a process, right? You probably want to go through a pretty systematic process and approach. But if you've got an inclination to do it, then I would say prioritize it and make it happen. And I'd be glad to talk to anyone who has that desire, and I can help them through that stage. I think now is the best time to do it.
Now is always the best time. And
That's
last
right.
question, people who are
Yeah.
stuck with the whole golden handcuffs, anything
Ooh.
you would like, any lasting message you would like for them?
Yeah. Well, definitely take advantage of those handcuffs while you got them, and then and do everything you can to build up your side hustle. And good luck creating that diversified income to break free.
Thank you so much, Eric. You've been an amazing guest on our show, and looking forward to having you more often and adding value to our audience. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Marshall.